Hello, everybody. You got Dan from 5Wide here with Edin, and today we are going to be breaking down our top 25 running backs. In the right, you can see both mine and Edin's 25 through 11 groupings on the Excel spreadsheet. Edin, you wanna give a little shout out?
Hey everybody, welcome to the stream. Hopefully we're gonna go with this way too early ranking and see what we come across. To be honest, I don't know about you, Dan, but mine might change throughout this discussion. But hopefully we're gonna get some good back and forth and see what we like and don't like about some players.
There is a chance. I've had some debates with some other guys recently that have moved me. I read a really good article by Play to Win Fantasy. Nick there does a good job, and it actually got me to move Eckler up quite a bit in my rankings. So I'm sure after this debate things can change. The other thing is got Singletary at 22. I've heard rumors that the Bills could be taking a quarterback. I mean, not quarterback, a running back in the first 3 rounds.
Wow.
You know, if they were to take Swift or Taylor or one of those other guys in the second round, Singletary drops out of my top 25. I got Melvin Gordon in there too, and we don't know what's going to happen with Philip Lindsay and Royce Freeman. So there's a lot of things that could change this.
Yeah, for sure. I think the draft's gonna play a big part in this, where some of the running backs go, where some of the quarterbacks go. Speaking about Austin Eckler, what the Chargers ended up doing, I think is gonna do a lot of influence in here.
Yeah, true. So for the podcast purposes, because I'm also recording for that, I'm going to quickly read out my 25 through 11, and then Edin's going to read out his. We'll do a little debate before we do the unveil of our 10 through 1 spots. So at number 25, I've got the new Houston Texans edition, David Johnson. At 24, I've got Colts Marlon Mack. And sorry, just so everybody knows, we're doing top 25 running backs in a PPR league, in a redraft, not a dynasty. I mean, not a dynasty league. So that's why some of these running backs who maybe are getting a little bit older might be a little bit higher. Some of the older injury prone backs than they would be in, say, a dynasty, or like Henry might be like 1, 2, or 3 in a regular league, where I've got him back at 5 in a PPR. So just so you guys understand the scoring. After Marlon Mack at 24, I'm going to the new addition to the Chargers, Melvin Gordon at 23. 22, the guy who's taken over the backfield for the Bills, Devin Singletary. 21, David Montgomery with the Bears. 20, the guy who used to always be in the top 5, Le'Veon Bell with the Jets. 19, I got Mark Ingram with the Ravens. 18, Kerryon Johnson from the Lions. 17, Ronald Jones II with Tampa Bay. 16, Kenyon Drake with the Cardinals. 15, Todd Gurley with the Rams. 14, Miles Sanders with the Eagles. 13, Joe Mixon with the Bengals. 12, Nick, why the hell did you guys pick up Kareem Hunt Chubb with the Browns? In 11, the rookie sensation from last year, Josh Jacobs, hanging out with, I actually put Oakland, but that is wrong. It is now the Las Vegas Raiders.
The Las Vegas Raiders. All right, my turn. All right, So coming down from the top 25 spot, so 25, David Montgomery. 24, James Conner. 23, Mark Ingram II. 22, Marlon Mack. 21, Kerryon Johnson. 20, Miles Sanders. 19, Le'Veon Bell. 18, Melvin Gordon. 17, David Johnson. 16, Todd Gurley. 15, Kenyon Drake. 14, Devin Singletary. 13, Joe Mixon. 12, Leonard Fournette. 11, Chris Carson.
All right. So as we look at these two lists, we're pretty similar on both I just had a couple things I thought maybe we could call out. First of all, you're a lot higher on David Johnson than I am. Could you give me a reason why?
Sure, absolutely. The list went away. I can't look at the list.
You want to still be able to see the list?
Yeah. If you can keep the list on,
Okay.
it will help me with my thought process behind it. Honestly, how I kind of looked at it, it was the top 15 were pretty close to me on how I would draft them, and draft them pretty high. Honestly, I would probably move a couple of the players. We can always debate about that. And then 16 down, I would probably start searching for other positions and then see where they drop to me based on value. David Johnson, I just think there's a lot of potential there. If he drops, which I think in a lot of rankings he is dropping, and going lower, sometimes not even in top 25, which to me is crazy. Luckily, he hung on for you. But it's a target for me. So when I put up my list together before a draft, I put it on because it's on targets. Sure, if I had a choice and I had to have a starter between David Johnson as Miles Sanders for an example, I would probably choose Miles Sanders if I had to. But hopefully, with putting my list together, I would have one, possibly two running backs. I'm really big on running backs, so would I rather have David Johnson as my number 3 or Miles Sanders? I would rather have David Johnson. I think he has a lot more upside for me, at least. So that's kind of how I structured my list based on potential upside and needing something like that, if that makes sense.
No, that makes sense. Obviously, I think David Johnson will be around. If you're looking at ADP, I believe he is being drafted after Miles Sanders. I did the tweet. I think he was going in like the 6th round, if I remember correctly. So David Johnson is going to be, I think there's value if you can get him far enough back. The Texans also, they historically use one running back, which is the only reason why I put him on. I don't think David Johnson is okay. He's going to be 29 heading into next year, which is a big. So yeah, I just pulled up. He's going late 6th round right now. ADP. He's going 10th pick in the 6th round.
Wow.
He's going to be 29 heading into this year. He's only had one season of over 1,000 yards rushing. He just lost his starting job to Kenyon Drake. The Texans don't pass to running backs as much as a lot of other teams, and that's like a big part of his game. But I think volume keeps him still at the top 25. And I think more because he's got a low floor. I don't think he's got that high of a ceiling. I think he just has a low floor because he's better than Carlos Hyde, who is a top 25 running back in Houston solely off volume. So I think David Johnson's going to get volume, but I disagree with you that he's got much potential upside. I think he'll rush for over 1,000 yards because he'll get 200 plus carries.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he's going to have a rock star quarterback. He still showed, I believe, last year that he can definitely. I mean, this is PPR. He can definitely catch. I mean, he had games, 6 catches, multiple games like that, and then he got obviously a little injured, and then it fell through. Had a couple of touchdowns. I think he still has a lot of big potential. And at that point, in the mid teens, I'm looking more for a I guess boom or bust in a sense, because that's what kind of David Johnson is. But now he has, Deshaun Watson, which much more secure, I think, than a rookie Kyler Murray. So I'm definitely higher on Johnson than most, and I think this list proves it.
That it does, and I'm not questioning that David Johnson can catch. I'm questioning that Bill O'Brien will set up an offense that throws the ball to him that much. Sure. Another one is I did not put James Conner on my list, and you did. He's way back at 24, so it might just be a little bit of a debate. But do you think James Conner is? Are you drafting him, I guess, more based on his potential, or that you actually believe he's going to be a top 25 running back this year?
I believe he's going to be top 25. Honestly, I believe he's going to be top 25. I'm not sure what else that offense is going to do besides run the ball most times. I know they got Juju, but especially back there, I mean, he does have the talent. He's proved that he's a workhorse. I don't know if he's been injured really besides that a couple games there. So I think he's going to be available, and you're not drafting really a starter at 24. So James Conner is definitely a reliable running back at that spot for me.
So I left him off the list, but I do like him in the right spot. I think he has a high upside. He did real good, obviously, 2 years ago in 2018, his first year as the starter. Big Ben's going to be coming back. I just fear he has a history. Every year he's missed at least a couple of games. 2 games his first year, 3 games second year, and then 6 games last year. So his durability is a question for me. So that's why I left him off my top 25. But if I've already got 2 running backs, and I'm sitting there and like Maryland Mack, Melvin Gordon's on the board, I would probably take James Conner over them because of the upside. But if I'm looking at my number 2, I do not want to have James Conner as my number 2 running back or my number 1 running back. I don't want to have to rely on him week in and week out, which is why I kept him off my top 25.
For sure.
And then I guess there's just 2 more I wanted to talk about here before we unveil our top 10. You do not have Ronald Jones on your list, and I have him as my big mover and shaker. Last year, he was the number 26 running back. Do you think that's kind of his ceiling? You don't really see him breaking into that top 25?
No, I just don't think so. I can see it happening. So I can definitely see it happening. So let's put that there. He's just not a person even on my radar. I think I've picked him up a few times in my leagues, and I've definitely had him on my lists. It's just maybe it's more like slighted just by my past experience. He just disappointed me way too many times for me to ever trust him again. Where he had ample opportunity, where he was healthy. Sometimes the other guys were injured, and he was literally supposed to be the workhorse, and then nothing happened. Multiple games. And I don't think Tom Brady is going to fix that for him at all. I think it's going to be more of with the talent, the wide receivers, and Tom Brady's decision making. I think it's going to be much more of a passing offense, which always has been.
So I think actually having it being a passing offense in a PPR league helps him because he had a lot of catches last year. He caught 31 balls on 40 targets. Tom Brady's never had a running back. No, in the last 8 years, at least 1 running back on all of Tom Brady's teams have had at least 40 catches, at least 400 receiving yards, at least 5 touchdowns. So I think that he's going to see more targets than he did all last year. He was a roller coaster guy the last couple of years, but he is also splitting time with Peyton Barber. In the last 2 games, when they kind of like gave him the reins, he had 14 carries for 77 yards and 11 carries for 106. I just think that's the production you're going to see. Maybe not quite 11 for 106. That's a really good game, but I think you're going to see now that he's not splitting time. He averaged 4.2 yards a carry. I think you're going to see that where he's getting 15 to 20 carries with 3 or 4 targets a game. He's got good hands, catching 31 out of 40 is a really good catch rate so I just think you're not going to see the roller coaster you did before because Arians isn't going to be going with the hot hand. He's only got Peyton Barber. I mean, not Peyton Barber. He's only got Ronald Jones. Peyton Barber's gone. So Ronald Jones got 170 touches last year. Peyton Barber got 150. I think you're going to see Ronald Jones getting like a 270 this year unless the injury bug or fumble bug hits him. And I just think that makes him – I would not mind having him as my number 2 running back because of the lack of other options, and I think he's got the potential to really take that next step. He's only going to be 24, so that's why I like Ronald Jones. I can see the arguments against him. And then my last one is You got Leonard Fournette back quite a bit from where I have him. You've got him sitting at 12. Is there a reason you're afraid of Fournette?
I mean, the injuries. I feel like last year, he kept it together for sure, and he showed what he could do on a season that he's healthy. It's just I don't like to gamble high up in the draft, and top 10. I like to keep it people that I'm solid with. Leonard Fournette, when he's on the field, he's amazing. The injuries just what kept me back, and honestly, when I put this list together, I was kind of amazed on how much running back talent there is. Obviously Leonard Fournette coming through when he was drafted, one of the most explosive college athletes. It's translated. He's still a beast. I just think PPR wise, the people in front of him, even without the injury bug, are just more talented.
I mean, I see the injury fear. I think he's unbelievably talented. I remember watching him play against Syracuse in a very close game. Syracuse actually gave LSU a run for their money in the Carrier Dome, where he ran for over 200 yards on less than 20 carries. He looked like
Syracuse, though. We're both Syracuse fans.
Syracuse lost by less than a touchdown in that game. He looked like he was honestly, like, I wouldn't even say a man amongst boys. I would say he looked like a rare specimen playing against like teenagers. It was bad. It was really bad. He's just, when he's on the field, he's such a tremendous athlete, and he does catch balls. And when Gardner Minshew was playing this year, they threw to him a lot. He had 100 targets. So I just think in a PPR league and stuff, when he's healthy, his talent outweighs the risk of injury. I think he's supremely talented.
Yeah, I think another one of my concerns, maybe talent wasn't the right word, maybe like ceiling. I think there is a difference, and we're strictly talking fantasy here. I think there's a difference between fantasy ceiling and a player's ability to impact the field. And he's a bruiser, he's a big dude, so he's going to wear out the defense. So on a team, that's a much bigger asset than being on a fantasy squad. What's alarming to me with him? I mean, it was kind of the Julio Jones thing. He's a big guy, good plays, but just doesn't get touchdowns. I mean, what was it last year? He had 100, targets. He had over 1,000 yards, 3 rushing touchdowns, 0 receiving touchdowns. What's going on with that, Dan?
So that's an anomaly I'm banking on.
Okay.
But you know what I mean?
It's a good old hope method. I like it.
I look at that and I just think like something that's got to be an anomaly, because he's a third down back. He's not like the Devin Singletary question marks with touchdowns make sense. The guy's small. The question marks with touchdowns with Leonard Fournette, I think, is an anomaly. I think that it's just it doesn't make sense to me how a guy his size can rush for 1,100 yards and only get 3 touchdowns. So I'm kind of banking on him doubling or tripling that touchdown count.
Yeah.
I mean, his rookie year, he had 9. He had 9 touchdowns. So I'm just kind of under the belief that maybe it was part of the bad Jags offense.
Yeah. I think obviously as we put these rankings together, quarterback, coaching, team, even the defense, can they stay on the field or can they, push it back to the offense? That has so much to do with the ranking on here. I just see Leonard Fournette in my mind, a Derrick Henry light, and Derrick Henry is not as high on my list in PPR as it might be on yours. I'm not sure, but I put him in that same category. Definitely a much better catcher, but still beast just pushes through.
Yeah.
Another person. Yeah, just looking at these lists, I think somebody that I would probably push up on my list, and he's actually the same, is Kenyon Drake. I don't know if you want to debate him, how we have him both outside of our top 10, and he showed he's an absolute baller last year, especially the 2 games where he had over 20, I think, rushing yards, let alone touches. So what was your reasoning by putting him at 16 there?
I haven't seen him do it consistently enough for a long enough period of time. That
Yeah.
100% came down to his upside and potential is there, but he's never finished as an RB1 in fantasy. The Dolphins didn't want him anymore. I mean, obviously the Cardinals saw something in him. They got rid of David Johnson. He looked very good at the end of last year, which is why I put him at 16. But with Hopkins there, there's going to be less targets going to Drake. And I don't, it's hard for me to bank on potential which is why I usually don't have rookie running backs that high, when I haven't consistently seen it. He hasn't consistently been a starter anywhere he's been. He split time in Miami. Part of that could just be Miami's coaching staff is terrible. I don't think any Dolphin fan is going to argue with me. They had Adam Gase before their current coach, who is known as like the fantasy killer. So maybe that's it. And maybe we're both underappreciating his potential. And if he did come in and finish as a top 10 running back, I would not be shocked. The talent's there. He just hasn't, like I said, done it consistently week in or week out in the first 4 years he was in the league.
Yeah, same with me. I think it's nothing against him. I mean, he's definitely talented. He was talented in Miami. It's just, do I trust the Cardinals offense enough? Do I trust the coaching staff? Do I trust Kyler Murray? I think it's all going to depend on how that offense goes. I think some running backs, even in a bad offense, they can thrive. I think if the Cardinals are bad, Kenyon Drake's going to be bad. So I think there's the inconsistency there that you just got to bank on.
Yeah, he's not going to like Leonard Fournette, where even though you have him at 12, he's still low end RB1 in a 12-person league on a bad offense because he gets it done. Kenyon Drake, in a lot of ways, reminds me of another guy that we both put. I have 18, you have at 21, Kerryon Johnson. Another guy that the ceiling is high, but he hasn't consistently done it. He's had some injuries. So Kerryon Johnson is another one sitting there with the Kenyon Drake, where if I get them as my number 2 running back, I'm not upset about it because their ceiling is so high, but their floors are also very low. So they're guys that make me a little nervous.
Yeah. The thing with Kerryon Johnson, he does not getting targets. He just doesn't get targets in the passing game at all, which is surprising. I mean, I think when he was spilling time and just coming in from the bench, I think he showed that he has the hands, but then the offense just doesn't, or the coaching staff doesn't trust him with that. I don't know why.
Well, I think a lot of that has to do with who is the running back they had there? Was it Radcliffe, Theo Riddick? Was that it?
Theo Riddick.
Theo Riddick. Yeah, Theo Riddick, and I don't know, is he still on the team with them? He just eats up a lot of catches out of the backfield. The guy is, and
he's pretty much a receiver. He's pretty much a slot receiver.
Yeah, he's not on the team anymore, so it doesn't make as much sense. But I think that that was a large part of it, is he just ate up a lot of the targets. And seeing as he's not going to be on the team, if Kerryon Johnson can stay healthy, hopefully he can eat up some of those targets.
Yep.
The big question on whether or not Kerryon Johnson stays healthy. All right, I'm going to take off the screen share, and we can slowly count back from our top 10.
Okay.
All right. So, do you want to go at 10 first, or do you want me to?
We'll just we'll name them off. We'll kind of stop throughout. Does that sound good? Is that what we're doing? All right. My number 10, Josh Jacobs.
I have nothing to say. I have Josh Jacobs at 11.
I know. I saw that. I was like, you just missed your top 10.
So, we both really like Josh Jacobs.
Oh, yeah.
We were talking about, and I think the Raiders just got rid of one of their running backs who got a lot of catches last year. And they're saying that their coaching staff is saying how they're going to get Josh Jacobs involved more in the receptions. So I think he showed in college he could catch. So if he really does get involved in the receiving, he's definitely going to be a low to middle RB1. So yeah, it was Washington that they got rid of. So he's going to pick up a lot of those receptions. I think he's definitely a low to middle of the road RB1. So putting him at 10 is not shocking. The guy I have at 10, a lot of people are a lot higher on than I am. And that is Alvin Kamara.
Wow. Because he's pretty high on my list.
Yeah. I mean, injuries. Comes back to injuries. Alvin Kamara has been injury prone. And then they went out and they got Emmanuel Sanders. So I don't know how much that eats into his receptions. But he didn't start every game last year for him because he was battling through injuries, and he's a little bit undersized. He's electric. He's very electric with the ball in his hands, but he's a little bit undersized. He's battled some injuries, and because of that, and because of what I feel like is a very talented pool of running backs, I'm a little nervous to have him as my number one.
I respect that. He talked about an anomaly. His breakout season, I think he had a touchdown every third time he touched the ball. So that's obviously not going to continue. But he is, especially with Drew Brees on there, and the more weapons they have, I think Brees does a great job spreading it out. If Manuel Sanders and if Michael Thomas are covered, I think it's going to Kamara. So obviously I have him ranked higher. I won't reveal it yet. My number 9, so I think this is a lot of people probably have him higher, Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry at number 9. Listen, it's PPR. So let's say that out first, okay? 2, I just don't see it happening. What he did last year was incredible. What the Titans did was incredible. I don't know if you can, sometimes with teams, they come out and surprise you, and then the defense adjusts and kind of fixes it. To be honest, I don't know how you can fix going up against Derrick Henry. You just tell your linebackers to eat more food that day because he's a big man. He's going to come right through you. But I just don't have him that high. It's just mostly because it's PPR. If it wasn't, he'd be much higher. I mean, but 18 receptions scares me. His yards are going to be there. I just don't think he's going to follow up another 16 rush touchdown season this year.
So I see that. They did lose Collins at tackle, which I think plays a big part because Henry was getting a yard or two before he gets touched. And when a guy like that has that speed, no one takes him down one-on-one once he's running downhill like that. I have him higher. I'm not going to say where. I feel like in a non-PPR league, he's a top 3 running back. I still think he's got to get high 200 touches. Every year in the league, he's averaged over 4 yards a carry. You're right. Rushing for 16 touchdowns, probably not going to happen again, but he had 12 the year before. And every season from his rookie year, he averaged 4.5 yards a carry his rookie year. The guy is a specimen. And I could see him breaking the mold where, like, for years people were saying Adrian Peterson was going to drop off. Or like a Frank Gore. I could just see him breaking the mold with his size and talent and just consistently putting up stats. I know he doesn't catch the ball, but he's such a safe bet. Like, if he had less than 1,200 rushing yards this year, I'd be shocked.
Yeah, true.
But no, I mean, in a PPR league, having him at 9 isn't shocking to me, just because, like you said, 18 receptions is terrible. I think he's going to be a little bit more involved in the passing game because hopefully they're going to have a quarterback for a longer portion of the year, that they're not going to be bouncing around wondering who's at quarterback. Hopefully we get, if you're if you're a Titans fan, you're hoping you get the good Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah.
He has a split personality. My number 9, I think you had him on your list back at 11 or 12, is Chris Carson. Yeah, you had him at 11. So we don't have much of a difference there. The Seahawks run the football. They always run the football. They've done it every year. Russell Wilson also runs the ball well, so he keeps your linebackers where they can't cheat in. They can't line up like 8 in the box because Russell Wilson will just bootleg outside and either kill you with a 10-yard run or hit, Will Disley, Greg Olsen. Now they've got DK Metcalf. They'll just kill you downfield with DK Metcalf or Tyler Lockett. So I just feel like their offense allows for your running back to be in a good position, facing not facing linebackers cheating up and stuff like that. I think the addition of Greg Olsen, even if he might not stay healthy, opens up the middle of the field more. He's going to be able to run those slants, which is another thing that's going to make your linebackers have to cheat back. So I really think Chris Carson has a good season. He's a middle of the road catching the ball running back. So 200-300 yards receiving isn't great, but it's not terrible when you throw that into the fact that he's going to get 250 plus touches, 1,200 rushing yards. I think he's a solid number 9. Do you have any disagreements there?
No, not at all. Yeah, you said it. They run it a lot. Russell runs it, but I mean the ball is going to Chris Carson on the goal line. Unless they try to pass at the 1-yard line again, I think they learned their lesson. So they're definitely going to run the ball at the goal lines and clear Chris Carson's demand there. I know for a while they had a couple of 2-headed, 3-headed horses, but they found their guy.
Yeah, I think they've kind of given up on Rashad Penny, so I don't think you're going to see that 2-headed horse. Chris Carson really pulled away at the end. So who do you got here at number 8?
Number 8, Nick Chubb. Last year I was a little worried, not gonna lie, about Kareem Hunt, but they showed that Nick Chubb is he's the real deal. I can't believe he even fell that much in the draft. They got him in a good spot, I think, for a running back even. But he's just been balling every single year. I think the offense, it's another one of those. He could be higher, he could be lower. It all depends on how you think the Browns offense is going to do this year. I don't think anybody who watches football debates the talent of Nick Chubb. So I have him there. I think the offense is going to improve. So I trust Nick Chubb.
So I put Nick Chubb back a little ways. I have him in our league, our keeper league. So Nick Chubb is probably going to end up being my keeper, which makes me a little sad that I don't have a slightly better one. The last couple games when Kareem Hunt was seeing the ball more, he rushed for 45 and 41 yards, which just scares me. Once Kareem Hunt got on the field, they stopped throwing Nick Chubb's the ball, which I don't understand. He proved for the first 10 weeks or so he could catch the ball. And then after that, over the last 6 games, he's got 0, 3, 1, 1, 3, 0, 1. Those were his catches. I think it depends too. There's talks about them looking to trade Odell Beckham. If they trade Odell Beckham, I think Nick Chubb moves up back into my top 10. But right now they got to keep so many mouths happy. They got to keep so many mouths fed. They just went out and got Austin Hooper. And they went and they got Josh Conklin. And it just seems to me like they want to pass the ball. Now, I know they got the Vikings offensive coordinator who likes to run the football a little bit, and he's talking about trading Odell Beckham. So if that trade goes through, that might change where I put Chubb. But right now, I just worried he might not get the touches he saw last year. The talent's there. Like, there's no doubt. But Kareem Hunt's the best backup running back in football. I'll fight anyone on that. He was a top 5 fantasy running back before he decided to punch some girl at his apartment. And he would still be a top 5 fantasy running back if he had never done that. So that's just what scares me with Chubb. My number 8, we don't even need to debate it. We already had the back and forth because it's Leonard Fournette. I don't think we have anything more to say on him. Do you have anything more to say?
Nope.
All right, so let's go to your number 7.
All right. Probably going to be debate here. Number 7, Dalvin Cook.
Wow. Much farther back than I put him.
Yeah, I love me some Dalvin Cook. I had him in every single league last year. Okay, so so they lost Diggs. So I don't know. I think that's going to ding them. I think that the less weapons you have. I know there's theory out there, less weapons you have throwing, the more running. I just think less weapons you have, less efficient the offense, less time they stay on the field, hurts everybody. 2, I'm not sure about what they're doing with their offensive line. It got worse over the years. I think it was 23rd ranked unit. I think offensive tackles like Riley Reif might leave next season or this upcoming season, and it's not just that. I mean, Dalvin Cook, I think he had a little stat here, 8 drops in 2019. They still were fully committed, throwing the ball. They didn't lose confidence. But is that going to continue? Is he going to fix that? Is he not going to fix that? I mean, that's concerning. 8 drops as a running back is probably just little passes. And the few games that he was out, I think Madison showed he's a very capable fill-in. So is Madison going to get a couple of more reps because of this, or just more reps in general because he's absolutely talented? And they have another Boone. I don't know. How do you feel about Mike Boone? But I think the running back core there is talented. Dalvin Cook's definitely the most talented, but with the some injury, scares here and there, and Madison showing up heavily, I think sometimes, gives me a little pause, especially in the top 5.
So it's funny because you talk about the Vikings offensive line, and I actually looked at it. So they got Gary Kubiak now as their offensive coordinator. Kubiak was the head coach for the Broncos when they won the Super Bowl. He was also the offensive coordinator for the Broncos and the Redskins under Mike Shanahan when they just produced great running backs left and right. That zone blocking scheme Kubiak has run for multiple teams has done great things for running backs. It had turned Terrell Davis into a Hall of Famer. Clinton Portis killed it. They were talking about, I think Alfred Morris had a great season on the Redskins behind that blocking. I just think Gary Kubiak getting in there, if they can shore up that offensive line, he's going to want to feed Cook. The other thing you're saying about Madison coming in, taking some of the touches. So part of the reasons why I'm a little bit lower on Melvin Gordon is the same reason why I'm a little bit higher on Cook and stuff. I don't think we're going to be seeing OTAs and preseason maybe at all this year. So backups and new running backs aren't going to be getting touches with the first team. Also, I'm worried about Darrell Henderson. So I'm not as worried about running backs who looked good last year but had a solid backup, because I don't think that those backups are going to get the touches with the first team. They're not going to get the practices. So that means that they have to go with Cook if Madison isn't getting those first team reps in practice. He hasn't worked with these guys. Cook has. I also think getting rid of Diggs means that they have less mouths to feed. I know that they wanted to run the ball even more than they did, but Diggs was unhappy and he was getting on Twitter and he was voicing it. So the Vikings had to figure out ways to get him the ball more. Shocking to me that the Vikings weren't getting him the ball more. I think he'll go to Buffalo and prove to everyone that they should have been getting him the ball more. But that's why I have Cook higher. I'm not going to say where, but I'll just say it's significantly higher. My number 7 is Austin Eckler. Austin Eckler is one that is wildly different from PPR to non-PPR league. I think he is an unbelievably good receiving running back. He reminds me a lot of like what Reggie Bush did or Darren Sproles. I just don't trust him in between the tackles, which is why I don't have him higher. But he was the number, what was he, number 2, 3, something like that, fancy running back in a PPR league last year. Austin Eckler was the number 4 fancy running back in PPR league, and that was splitting touches with Melvin Gordon. So he's going to get a lot more touches, but if they stay with Tyrod Taylor, I think LaShawn McCoy is a good comparison, receiving yards, hands and stuff, tackler. He was seeing 50, 60 targets a game. I mean, not a game, a season, when Tyrod Taylor was the starter for the Bills and he was the starting running back. Eckler saw 108 targets last year. So he's going to see 30 or 40% less targets, but he'll also see 70 or more rushing yards. So I think it kind of comes out as a wash. I just don't love him as an every down back, which is why I can't put him in my top 5. But in a PPR league, the amount of catches he gets, he's a solid RB1. In a non-PPR league, I avoid him like the plague because I think his ADP is going to be far too high. What do you think? You a fan of Eckler? I don't think I've seen him on your list yet.
Yeah, because he's right above. He's number 6. Yeah, I'm clearly a fan of Eckler. I love Eckler. It's that comparison with Shady. I think Shady, the age is completely different. So I think Eckler's still going to get his, especially in the passing game. And sometimes when the offense doesn't do well, and obviously I don't see the Chargers offense doing as good as they did last year. The running back who catches is always the safety spot. So he's going to get his catches. I mean, he had 92 last year. I wouldn't be surprised if he breaks 100 this year with Gordon gone. So in PPR, I mean, I would be happy if he was my running back 1. And it's kind of weird to say because how, it transpired last year, how low he was and how quickly he climbed on everyone's radar with Gordon gone. And it's not just Gordon being gone. He showed he's the absolute talent. Has he been even drafted? Was he undrafted? I'm not really sure now that I think about it. But
he's undrafted in fantasy or in real life?
In real life.
I'm pretty positive he's undrafted. He went to Western State.
Yeah, sometimes that gives me concern. I'm like, they're undrafted. They just come on surprise individuals, and then they develop a game plan. I don't think that's going to happen with Eckler. I don't know how he fell off the radar of scouts because he has been explosive. I don't know why they stuck with Melvin Gordon at all. Even if you don't look at fantasy, don't look at stats, Austin Eckler and Melvin Gordon just in the eye test is Austin Eckler all day, every day. So I have him at 6 because of that reason.
I don't know if I agree with that Eckler being better on the eye test. But he did do well when he was the starting running back and teams were game planning against him. He still did well. Are you worried at all about him getting in the end zone? He is a smaller guy, and he doesn't have a lot of rushing touchdowns.
He doesn't. No, he doesn't. And I mean, he's probably not going to be their goal line back, to be honest. But he's explosive. I mean, he had 8 receiving touchdowns last year, almost 1,000 receiving yards, and getting that while the potential of mid 500, probably more than 500 rushing yards and maybe a couple of touchdowns. So he's a good receiver. You get 1,000 yards and 8-10 touchdowns. That's a great receiver. And then you have the running back side of it too. He's kind of like a Kamara in a sense. I'll take that any day of the week because his floor with all those attributes I just mentioned is very high, and picking this high, you want a high floor.
Yeah, and he had over 500 rushing yards the last 2 seasons, splitting carries. So I think he's going to have 800-900 rushing yards easy, maybe even 1,000 yards rushing. I'm just a little bit less inclined to see him get 1,000 receiving, but maybe he rushes for over 1,000 and he receives for over 1,000, we're talking about CMC, not Austin Eckler.
Yeah, no kidding.
So my number 6 pains me a little because I think the guy's talent and ability is much higher, and I would not be shocked if he finishes as the number 1, 2, 3 running back. But I'm going with Elliott, and I'm going with Elliott largely for 2 reasons. Number 1 is the new coach. MacArthur's only had 1 top 10 running back in his entire time coaching. And he's been around. Mike MacArthur has been around. He's been a head coach for a while. So we're not talking about a small sample size. And he has obviously never had talent anywhere close to Elliott's, but he had a pretty good talent his last year in Jones, and he didn't give Jones the ball. So, he was the coach for Green Bay for 12 seasons. To have 1 top 10 running back scares me with Elliott. He's still going to put up stats. He's still going to put up numbers. He's still going to be a very good number 1 running back. Every year he's been in the league, he's got 1,600 rushing yards, 900, 1,400, 1,300. He's never had less than 5 rushing touchdowns. He's never had less than 270 receiving yards. Last year, 1,300 rushing yards, 420 receiving yards, 14 total touchdowns. The talent is there. He'll get involved. He's still going to be a top 10 running back. I just don't see him getting fed the way he used to. He got 300 plus carries in 3 of his first 4 years in the league. I don't see that happening again. The second thing is Dak Prescott still has not signed his long-term contract. Everyone keeps saying he's going to. He's definitely going to. It's just a matter of time. I think he might take the franchise tag and go out and try to prove that what he did last year was not a fluke. He threw for 4,900 yards. If that's the case, Dak Prescott's going to want to throw a lot. McCarthy's going to want to throw a lot too. So I think the Cowboys are going to throw a lot more this year, and that's why I don't have Elliott in the top 5, though he's very well wouldn't shock me if he finished there. Do you have any arguments? I know you're a big Cowboys fan, so you're probably not happy seeing me put Elliott at 6.
It's okay. I definitely have him higher. I think Elliott's the old, reliable, high production every single year, as long as he's not suspended. When he's on the field, almost no injury risk. He takes care of himself. And, there's no greater safety than drafting Elliott, to be honest with me. I don't know about the points with the throwing game. If Dak's going to want to throw more, it's not up to Dak, first of all. Plus, Dak's a complete team player. Me being a Cowboys fan, I love Dak. I love not just on the field. I think he's just a great person. I think he's going to do whatever it takes for his team to win. And if he doesn't throw the ball once and they win, I think he's happy with it, which almost seems, unfair to him because he definitely deserves to get paid. But I think they're going to run the ball. I understand that Mike McCarthy, but he had Aaron Rodgers and he had not the talent running back that Zeke Elliott. So do I love Dak enough to say he's a bigger talent than Aaron Rodgers? Absolutely not. So I think McCarthy can adjust and feed Elliott the ball. And Elliott's been fed every single game for years. Even when the trust is so deep in there when they had the backup there who was doing really well, and then Zeke came back. It was all Zeke. So I think it's always going to stay all Zeke for a while.
Yeah, and that's why it pained me a little bit to move him back because Zeke's floor, barring an injury, is top 10. Like his floor is top 10. I just don't know if his ceiling, because of the coaching change, is as high as some of these others. So who you got number 5?
Number 5, I got Alvin Kamara. Again, PPR, Alvin Kamara is Austin Eckler, but it just has done it for a longer period than Austin Eckler, and he's got Drew Brees. So I think for me, quarterback always is going to make a big part of my rankings and anything, as well as coaching. So everything hits there. The offense is going to be explosive. Still, like it always has been, really. I feel like since Breeze has been there, I don't know if they've ever been bad. And I think we talked a little bit about Elvin Kamara earlier. So I think all those points keep him at number 5 for me.
All right. Number 5, I've got Aaron Jones. The guy was a beast when they used him last year. Absolute rushed for over 1,000 yards, had over 400 receiving yards. Every year that he's been in the league, he's averaged over 4 yards a carry. I can't understand why he doesn't get the ball like an every down back. The guy is supremely talented, and I think as the receiving core isn't as strong, as Aaron Rodgers doesn't look to be quite the quarterback he used to, they're going to have to finally, for whatever reason, feed Jones. They just got to feed him. They just got to make the decision. Why they haven't had him as their clear-cut number 1 back game in and game out makes no sense to me. He's got a 5-yard career per carry. He's got an 8.4-yard career per reception. He's got great hands. He's unbelievably explosive. There's no question marks. Maybe a little bit with his size because he's short, but he's not skinny. He's still 210 at 5'9". So I really like Aaron Jones's upside.
Yeah, I have Aaron Jones number 4. He surprised me as well. I think I turned on a couple of trades. I feel like with Ray, I don't know if Ray's going to listen to this. I should have taken Aaron Jones from him into my team just
Ray,
because of the two-headed monster. So, and I'm with you. I don't know why. Jamal Williams has proven that he's a decent running back, but the talent of Aaron Jones is absolutely incredible. Even I watched a couple of games live where he had some absolute like ridiculous catches, let alone running, like insane catches in the end zone, like one-handed. I don't know how he got the ball, but he got the ball. So he's a talent all throughout. And this year I have no doubt that he's going to continue it.
All right, so we're not arguing there. Number 4, and we've had the back and forth with this guy already. I took Henry. So I don't think there's much more needs to be said. I believe that the guy's talent and strength is going to keep him as the number 1 running back in Tennessee. He was the number 2 running back, I believe, in non-PPR. Yeah, and the number 5 running back in PPR. Number 5 running back in PPR. He has his floor is insane. The guy's going to get you. If you draft him, this is a floor draft for me. Taking him at 4, there's no risk. Like there's some risk with Elliott with the new coaching staff. There's some risk with Jones because for some reason they don't feed him enough. There's some risk with Kamara because of health. There's no risk. Derrick Henry stays healthy. He's an absolute machine. He gets you at 1,200 yards every year. So I just, we talked about his touchdowns, everything. So I just think that he's the safest running back not named Christian McCaffrey. So that's why I put him at number 4.
Yeah, I think another thing that just kept me from Derrick Henry is just I think fantasy-wise, there's if you go break it down by game log, he had some games where if he's on your team, you're just going to win no matter what anybody else on your team does. He gets you like a 200 yards. I don't know how many touchdowns he got, but then there's some games, 33% of his games he scored less than 12 points. If I'm drafting top 5, it's a little scary to have a guy that I drafted so high and then I'm in the bottom of round 2, who's only going to give me 12 points a third of the games.
It's a good point, and that comes down to 100% the fact that he doesn't catch balls.
Mm-hmm.
If he caught balls, no, you wouldn't have those games. But
I think the top 3 is going to be really quick for us, huh?
Well, we got one that we're going to dispute on a little bit because I don't know if you have noticed, but I haven't mentioned Dalvin Cook yet. So
yeah, he's going to be number 3. Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so who you got for number 3, Edin?
Zeke.
Yep.
Zeke.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like for me, I don't know, 1, 2, 3. I don't know how much debate I can have. It's just studs. But yeah, go ahead.
Number 3 is Dalvin Cook. Also had some back and forth. So I think we both have the same top 1 and 2, right? Barkley at 1, see Christian McCaffrey.
I don't think anybody in their right mind is like, I don't think I'd be surprised if anybody PPR or not PPR doesn't have Christian McCaffrey as number 1.
Oh yeah, I was completely joking.
Like in any, I know, but like any list, like who would not, after what he did and how he did it and the consistency. You know, when I was just talking about Derrick Henry, some games high, some like I don't know what the lowest game Christian McCaffrey had, but it was high. It must have been high.
So just because I've got last year's PPR scores in front of me, so I'm going to give you 4 options, and you tell me by how much did Christian McCaffrey outscore number 2 running back? Did he outscore the number 2 running back by 208 points? 73, 52, or 167?
167. Aaron Jones.
167. Yeah.
I have it in front of me too.
Oh, yeah, asshole, you're cheating. I think he's going to take a step back. I don't think he's going to be as good as he was last year, Christian.
But what running back in the world can you say, hey, he's going to take 150 point step back? No, let's just make it 160, 10 points a game. He's going to get lower, and he's still going to be the number 1 guy. It's just like, what? What's going on?
Well, I'm banking on I'm banking on Barkley maybe putting up like 350 this year. That's why I got him at 2. You know, their offense improved a little bit near the end, and I think they're going to get a tackle in the center. But that being said, Barkley puts up 350. I still don't think he catches McCaffrey because I think McCaffrey takes a step back, like I said, but it's not going to be a 100-point step back. And Teddy Bridgewater loves passing to his running back. So,
yeah, I mean, they're both consistent. You know,
140.
Yeah, the year before, Barkley, Christian McCaffrey, they were pretty much tied by 0.3 points, 385. So barring there's an injury in either, and I'm not predicting there is, they're 1 and 2 easy for me. It's pretty much, to me, it's really not too much of a debate. PPR, non-PPR, but those guys are absolutely incredible. So I'm not sure what more there is to say. We could just put a smile on both our faces and just talk of all the crazy stats between these two, but I think we're pretty good with the CMC Barkley 1-2.
I just want to state, for all you dynasty owners out there that have Christian McCaffrey, I know you're very happy. He's not going to do as good. I'm sorry to break it to you. He's not going to do as good. That being said, he's going to do unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like there's people who won their league with average teams because they had Christian McCaffrey. Who won our league this year?
I don't know. I had Christian McCaffrey and I lost, but what does that have to say about me?
I mean, Mickey's team was legitimately carried by New England's defense.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Oh, I completely forgot about that.
He beat me one week, I think, by like 5 points, and New England's defense put up like 50.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think also speaking of dynasty leagues, I think in dynasty leagues you always got to remember that wide receivers are valued more because of their career longevity. But I think even if you look at that into consideration, Christian McCaffrey 1, Barkley number 2, and then you start thinking of like the Michael Thomases of the world.
Michael Thomas is good. You know, people forget though, he is 27. He's a little bit older than I think people think. But yeah, Michael Thomas, well, he'll be 27. He's 26 right now. Michael Thomas is another guy that I think might take a slight step back, but just for fun, just for everybody here, Michael Thomas outscored the number 2 receiver last year by 100 points. So Michael Thomas is another one that he might take a step back, and it's not going to matter.
Yeah.
God. So if you could somehow get Michael Thomas and Christian McCaffrey on the same team, the rest of your people in your league are
a lot of trouble.
I don't want to use the words because you're not supposed to say that word anymore, but they're idiots. So we got a question. Said that he loved Eckler in his Dynasty half-point league. That's the only person who talked. So thanks, Gabriel, for stopping in today. I think we're done. You wanna give your outro, Edin?
I'm not sure what my outro is, but if you're watching, thank you for watching. If you're listening, thank you for listening. We're obviously trying to grow 5 Wide here, so we're going to be continuing these every 2 weeks. It seems to be our schedule here. We might do something special next week, but I don't want to steal the thunder from Dan here.
Yeah, we're in talks next week to do our first mock draft, which should be fun. We're going to be doing these chats, top 25s, every 2 weeks as we build up closer to the season, then a little bit more often. We're doing some collabs. I did a really nice Giants mock draft collab on Thursday with the Hub. You can come and watch that on our YouTube channel. I also did a collab where we did the top 5 running backs in the top 5 receivers with Nick from Play to Win Fantasy. We're growing pretty quickly. We started here right at the beginning of March. We've already got 584 followers on Twitter. Our website's got some cool articles. We're just hoping to keep growing like we've been.
Yeah, and one thing I'll say, if you're listening and you're also in the same boat and you're trying to grow and you want to do collabs, and I think this is a good time for you to jump in, and because we're open, we didn't come here by ourselves. We came in here through others' help and collaborations. So if you want to potentially be in our mock draft, please let myself or Dan know. Dan will give you an email that you can email us, and we could see, depending on how many people requested, we could have a 10, 12 person mock draft with you as well, being on our stream here and drafting with us.
Yep, I'm putting the email right now in the chat. Email us at 5WideFootball@gmail.com. So I just posted that in the chat. I also have contacts. You could message us directly on Twitter. You could message me on Facebook. You could message us on, you could subscribe to our blog, whatever you want to do. There's plenty of ways to reach us. You could comment in the YouTube channel, whatever, if you're interested. Mock drafts are always fun. I think they're the best way to learn how to adapt, because you can come in with the best game plan. All right, I want to go running back, receiver, quarterback, blah, blah, blah. Some idiot jumps the gun and takes Lamar Jackson in the second round. A bunch of other people panic. All of a sudden, you're sitting in the 4th round with 6 quarterbacks off the board, and your whole plan is ripped to shreds because you either have to decide you're going to take a quarterback now in the 4th round, or you're going to play the waiver wire all year long, picking up quarterbacks that no one has that's going up against bad defenses. So the way you can find out and practice and work on adjusting quickly on the fly is through watching mock drafts or competing in them yourselves. All right, well, I don't have an outro yet either. I'm going to practice that, so I got to find some catchphrases. Like maybe I'll pick up a mic and say Dan out and just drop it. Say something like, I got the best fantasy takes you've ever seen. Shoot some fire up in the air. I could say this is huge, pretend I'm Donald Trump. You know what? Maybe that's it. Say in the comments, which one's my favorite outro? Should I be like, I've got the best fantasy takes, just lean back like that? Should I carry a mic with me and drop it and be like, Dan out? Or should I say, I'm huge, like Donald Trump? All right, so vote in the comments. And I'm going to call this the end of our live stream. So everybody,
Bye, everyone.
bye.